Let me shift here, and I just want to talk a little bit about silence. Silence, my sisters and brothers, has many dimensions. There is a sacred silence, which is that silence out of which creative contemplation grows. It's a meditation on the word and the will of God. It's the silence out of which we meditate and get closer to God. It's the silence in which fervent prayer is born. There is a sacred silence. But then there's a seething silence that comes when you are quiet externally, but you've got a storm going on the inside. The late Dr. Howard Thurman called that a noisy quietness. But then finally, and here's the silence I want to get to, there is a sinful silence. And Adam's silence falls into this category because a sinful silence is a silence that comes over you when you ought to say something, but you don't say nothing at all. It is that silence that creeps in when you ought to speak up for God, but you sit there acting like you don't know what God said. My sisters and brothers, I fear that Adam was not only silent on that fateful day in the garden when a serpent showed up, but Adam has remained silent through the centuries. When Africans were captured and taken from their homeland, packed in the hulls of ships, sold on auction blocks, beat and killed and misused and kept in shadow slavery, Adam was silent. When Jews were persecuted, deported, and murdered by Nazis, Adam was silent. When Native Americans were slaughtered in the acts of genocide so their land could be taken from them, Adam was silent. When our ancestors were lynched and called boy and girl, even though they were full grown, when they were denied employment and equal access to resources, Adam was silent. And today, far too often, when our boys are shooting and killing each other on the streets, and our girls suffer from low self-esteem and give birth to children whose daddies won't stay around to take care of them, Adam is still silent. Sisters and brothers, there is a sinful silence among us when injustice is raging and we remain quiet. When people are aching, when people are hurting, when babies are crying and dying of hunger and not having enough love from insufficient care, and we remain silent, that is a sinful silence. When the church looks and sees what's going on in its communities, and not just in its communities, but what's going on right there in the household of faith, and we sit there and act like we don't know what's going on, that is a sinful silence. And let me suggest that there's a time when silence is sinful. And here in the text, we see a snake talking to Adam's wife. Adam remains silent. Adam should have said something. My sisters and brothers, the nation is waiting for somebody to say something. Go on, touch your neighbor and tell him you ought to say something. You see them boys on the corner, you ought to say something. You see what's happening with those sisters. I'm not talking about Pookie and Ray Ray and them. I'm talking about the saints' children. Y'all ain't gonna help me in here today. You ought to say something. The classroom is waiting for somebody to say something. Youth violence is waiting for somebody to say something. Every community, every city, every town, every home, every boy, every girl, every family is waiting for the church to break the silence. And if we don't break the silence, let me tell you what's going to happen. If we don't break the silence, we end up embracing the appeals of the serpent. What are the appeals of the serpent? Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. You've got a responsibility to go back to Lodabar. Your work's not done just because you made it to the palace. Bless the name of the Lord. But you've got a responsibility to help somebody else make it across. Thank you, Jesus. Don't pull up the ladder because you climbed to the top. And don't blow up the bridge because you made your way across. Thank you, Jesus. But reach your hand back down the ladder and pull somebody else up out of Lodabar. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Somebody gotta tell themselves it's all right if you got it now, just hold it for me. I'll be there to get it after a while. Oh, bless the name of the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. You got to make up in your mind that what God has for me, it is for me. I might not have it right now, may not get it next week, you might try to stop me from getting it, but if God said it's mine, I want you to know after a while, I'm going to get what belongs to me. Sometimes God got to strip what you got so you don't depend on yourself. He got to take away from you so you understand how to depend on El Shaddai. Come on in there. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. You've got a responsibility to go back to Lodabar. Your work's not done just because you made it to the palace. Bless the name of the Lord. But you've got a responsibility to help somebody else make it across. Thank you, Jesus. Don't pull up the ladder because you climbed to the top. And don't blow up the bridge because you made your way across. Thank you, Jesus. But reach your hand back down the ladder and pull somebody else up out of Lodabar. to tell themselves, it's all right if you got it now, just hold it for me. I'll be there to get it after a while. Oh, bless the name of the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. You got to make up in your mind that what God has for me, it is for me. I might not have it right now. I may not get it next week. You might try to stop me from getting it. But if God said it's mine, I want you to know after a while.
90.7 WTCC. Good morning. Welcome to the Spoken Word. I'm your host, Bishop Talbert Swan II. And as usual, we'll be telling it like it is through cultural idioms and nuances that shape the order, ethos, and chaos of the African American experience. Words have their own vitality. They shape their own consciousness and create their own context for interpreting social and spiritual reality. The spoken word contains the power to reshape the landscape of society. It is 6 minutes past the hour of 9 a.m. And I want to thank Mr. Kenneth Barnett for bringing us up until the 9 o'clock hour. You can hear Kenneth every Monday morning from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., bringing you the best in gospel music on the promise. A good way to start out your Monday morning, a great way to start out your week. So check that out every Monday morning. I hope you all had a wonderful Christmas holiday celebration time with family, whatever you do during this time of the year, whether you celebrate the holiday or not. If you had the time off and were able to hang out with family and do some special things, I hope it was blessed for you. And as we continue headed toward the new year, headed toward the new year. So we're going to finally get out of 2021. Many of you were wondering if we were ever going to make it out of here. But we leave 2021 still in a pandemic. Still in a pandemic. 2020, 2021, now going into 2022. Very similar to the 1918 pandemic. They were in it through 1921, 1918, 1919, 1920. Didn't really come out to 1921. It was over 3 years, nearly going on 4 years, that they were in that pandemic. And I know it's a little disappointing because many thought when they first started talking about it, we were going to be out of it in a few months. No, we're headed into the third year of this pandemic. And be safe, be careful. Don't be careless. This is killing folks, especially black folk. Young folk are dying. This is not a joke. This is not politics. We had one crazy president who politicized science. And unfortunately, people fell for it hook, line, and sinker. And they have made wearing masks, taking vaccines, a political football into a Democrat versus Republican thing. And here's the thing you all need to understand. For those conservatives who don't want to wear masks and all that stuff, understand all of your icons who keep fueling the fire and politicizing this, they're all vaccinated. Donald Trump is vaccinated. All the Trumps are vaccinated. The whole Fox News staff are vaccinated. Tucker Carlson, all them, they're vaccinated. Okay? While they're running around playing politics with this thing, because it gives them political mileage, it riles up the base, and you guys fall for it. Hook, line, and sinker. It's a shame. But in any case, I need you all to be safe. All right? Happy Kwanzaa, everybody. Kuji Chakalia. I believe is the word for the day. Um, Collective work and responsibility. Umoja was yesterday. So we are in the midst of Kwanzaa celebration. Listen, today I'm talking about America's tolerance for violence and injustice. America's tolerance for violence and injustice. Um, so tell a friend, tell somebody the bishop is on the air. Do me a favor, share, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Rep your city, rep your town. Let me know where you're chiming in from. Good morning to my daughter Whit, who I believe is still in Florida, where she went to celebrate Christmas with her family. Good morning to each and every one of you. Do me a favor, rep your city, rep your town. Let me know where you're chiming in from, no matter what platform you are on. Holler back at a brother, okay? And tell somebody else we're on the air, and we're going to be coming right back. We're going to be talking about America's tolerance for violence and injustice. We also salute today the life and legacy of the revolutionary, the humanitarian, the cleric, the advocate, the justice fighter, the freedom fighter, the social justice warrior, the Archbishop Desmond Tutu, who passed away. And he was one of those who fought alongside Nelson Mandela to break the back of apartheid in South Africa. And so we remember Archbishop Desmond Tutu today. A giant has fallen, and we remember him and we honor him. And we'll talk a little bit about him when we come back. Don't touch that dial. Don't go nowhere. We're going to be right back. Stay with us.
Yeah. This one is for all the brothers that passed, but more particularly one because it affected me drastically. I remember my sister gave me the call and I was in awe. Matter of fact, it felt the farthest from reality. She seen somebody post RIP with his name and I said I doubt it's the same friend I had since the 7th grade. She said I'ma call her sister and double check and call me back. Said he hanged himself in his room and had been there for days. Initially it didn't hit me, then it clicked and I remembered that I hadn't seen or heard from the homie all week. Wish she had told me what had him feeling lonely and weak. I guess everybody got demons we don't even speak of. Cause I was with him exactly a week before the call. Just under 20, he couldn't even purchase alcohol. My best friend for like 6 or 7 years. I'm not ashamed to say I shedded plenty tears, but it was hard. He was somebody I had plenty memories with. The first ever burned any trees with. The worst feeling is knowing that you would leave us in all this grievance without a reason. You're not the first people to ever believe in me. When it came down to it, you knew you could call me if you needed me. Cause that information I wouldn't have ever imagined. It's sad thinking about it. I ain't happy that it happened, but it made me. There was plenty times when I thought that it would drive me crazy. But looking back on it now, I see all the time that it gave me. I learned more about why I am who I am on the daily. I know it may sound crazy, but I'm glad that it made me. Yeah, was born the son of a pastor, he was who I was named after. Matter of fact, I even got some of his characteristics. Both of us got messages for the people. I just do mine with rhythm on beat. He do his on the pulpit with scriptures. Well connected, respected in the community. Ever since I was little, I felt like there was some pressure on me. It started off with little stuff like when my folk brought us to church and then they forced us to get up and say a testimony. Didn't know they had to watch how I acted in public, cause people wouldn't hesitate to put that in discussion. Chat chatting like, is it that the pastor's kid? I'm like, yeah, that's me. But please don't expect me to be exactly like my daddy. Don't discredit my family for how I am. I'm not a little kid no more, I'm now a man. And I ain't pointing fingers, I'm not trying to do no blaming at all. When it comes to how I came up, I wouldn't change it at all, because it made me. There was plenty times when I thought that it would drive me crazy. But looking back on it now, I see all the drive that it gave me. I learned more about why I am who I am on the daily. I know it may sound crazy, but I'm glad that it made me. Yeah, glad that it made me. Yeah, glad that it made me. Looking back on it now, I see all the drive that it gave me. So I'm glad that it made me. Yeah, made me.
I look in the mirror and I like what I see. A strong, beautiful black woman staring back at me. One who's seen a lot of pain and had her share of sorrow, but who never gave up hope for a brighter tomorrow. I've been lied to, cheated on, stolen from and hit, but it just made me stronger and I refuse to quit. That's right. And though I've been tempted, I refuse to stoop to their level. Don't go down. I rose above that nonsense and made a liar of the devil. All right now. The devil who said I wasn't good enough, cute enough, or worthy of love, I kicked his butt with divine power from above. Power that says I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me and brought me out of darkness so that I could see that I'm smart, I'm beautiful, I'm a child of the King. Abundant love for me, he came to bring. Oh yes, when I look in the mirror, I love what I see. She's looking good. That strong, beautiful black woman, that woman is me.
90.7 WTCC. That last poem was Talbert Swan, who was one of the original announcers on this program when we started 21 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been that long. 21 years ago, she and I rotated back and forth on the spoken word. She passed 6 years ago on the 23rd of December, and we remember her. You can catch her music anywhere they stream, so check it out. Check it out. So listen, Desmond Tutu, for those youngsters in the audience. You see, I was born in the 60s, came up through the 70s, entered into my adulthood in the 80s. So I was on a college campus during the 80s when the fight was strident against apartheid, and we worked diligently on the campus of the University of Massachusetts to get them to divest out of South Africa. And when they had promised that they would divest out of South Africa, and we found out that they lied, we stormed the Whitmore administration building. We held several large-scale demonstrations on campus to finally get the University of Massachusetts to do what it said it was going to do. and to divest out of South Africa. Um, some of the key figures during that era in South Africa that we looked up to and got inspiration from, of course, was the late, great Nelson Mandela, who eventually became the first the black African president of South Africa after apartheid was ended. And of course, one of the other giant figures during that era that we looked up to and drew inspiration from was Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And Archbishop Tutu inspired us so very, very, very much. He used his pulpit. He used his gift of oratory to help bring down apartheid. And then he became one of the leading advocates once apartheid was dismantled for peaceful reconciliation under black majority rule. He died yesterday in Cape Town at the age of 90 years old. He had been battling cancer for quite some time. He was first diagnosed in 1997 and was hospitalized several times throughout the years because of a recurrence of it. But Archbishop Tutu, he preached that the policy of apartheid was as dehumanizing to the oppressor as it was for the oppressed. That it had a detrimental effect on them and their humanity, just like it did to those that they were oppressing. He stood against violence and really tried to bridge the chasm between black folks and white folks. He was the ultimate in terms of making attempts to reconcile humanity. And so for the young folks who don't know about Desmond Tutu, you need to learn about him. He urged economic sanctions against his own government, to force a change in their policy. He was a giant of a man, and we're going to miss him dearly. And here's the thing that I so appreciated about Bishop Tutu is that he didn't just rail against the white oppressors of the apartheid regime. He also railed against corruption when apartheid was dismantled and black folks were in charge. He didn't care. Corruption was corruption. And he expressed equal disapproval of leading figures in the dominant ANC, the African National Congress, which was the party of Nelson Mandela. And it came to power in 1994 when Mandela became president. He accused President Thabo Mbeki, who succeeded Nelson Mandela, of pursuing policies that enriched a tiny elite while too many other people were still suffering. So he was equal in his condemnation. Good morning, caller.
Yes, how are you this morning, Pastor Swan?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, fine. Yes, I just wanted to comment on the stimulus money. I know we haven't beat a dead horse, but
whoa. Hey, ho. We're not talking about stimulus money right now. I don't know if you've been listening to my program or not, but right now I'm saluting and paying homage to the late Bishop Desmond Tutu and talking about um, his influence on us, his legacy, and I don't mind talking about other things, but you guys and I get it. My callers are used to being able, really on WTCC all over. They're used to just call and talk about what they want to talk about. It's like the heck with what you talking about on your show. I want to talk about stimulus money right now. Forget Bishop Tutu. No, bro. Sorry. That's what we're talking about right now. So we're not going to get bogged down in changing the subject. So as I was saying, please, y'all don't think I'm being rude. I'm just, I'm trying to stay on point with the subject matter that we're dealing with. Um, um, Bishop Tutu condemned, as I was stating, President Mbeki for the corruption of his regime. He said that they were sitting on a powder keg. As a matter of fact, when Jacob Zuma succeeded Mbeki, he was even harder on Zuma in condemning his administration. He said under Zuma's tenure that South Africa had the most unequal society in the world. And as a matter of fact, he told Zuma that you do not represent me. His exact words to him was, "You are disgraceful." So he was persistent in condemning corruption and evil, regardless whether it was the whites who perpetrated, sustained the apartheid system, or whether it was black folk who got in office and were corrupt. Desmond Tutu was consistent in fighting for justice. And so we're grateful that he lived. The world is a better place because Desmond Tutu was part of the human family. And so we celebrate his life and his legacy on today. All right, 413. Let me get my number up here. Y'all must be memorizing the number because I didn't even put it up when that last caller came through. Let me get it up here. 413. There we go. 337-1867. 413-337-1867. Once again, rep your city, rep your town. If you're streaming live on here, I would love to know exactly where you're coming in from. I see New Carrollton, Maryland in the house. I see Chicago. I see Atlanta. I see New York City. I see Detroit in here. I see Newark, New Jersey in here. So rep your city, rep your town. Let me know where you're chiming in from. So listen. Let's just be honest. I think what happened in 2016 when the son of a Klansman came into power as president. Good morning, Alexandria, Virginia. And he had people around him to help create a fantastical reality. To pretend things were that weren't and things weren't that were. We got into this whole era of fake news, fake this, fake that, where you just called stuff fake if you didn't agree with it. Kenya's in the house. And then you pretended stuff that really existed actually didn't exist. And so it's almost like we live in this alternate reality. And that has carried over even past his administration. Fort Worth, Texas in the house, to where they want to just deny facts and history. They want to label it critical race theory or whatever they want to call it. They come up with conspiracy theories, and then any legitimate critique of America's history of racism, they want to pretend it didn't happen. Like, just erase it. Just arrest teachers or fire teachers who teach it, and just pretend it didn't happen. This is where we are in America. This is where we are in America. Pretend that America didn't do what it did for the last 400 years. Pretend white folks aren't who they are and didn't do what they've done for whatever reason. The wife and I and my boys went to see Spider-Man last night. And they were talking about the multiverse and different realities that exist along the same timeline, and that's where we are in America. It's like it's like they're trying to create a different timeline, like pretend that the genocide of Native Americans, indigenous people, didn't happen. Pretend that the enslavement of Africans and the brutality against their descendants, the lynching and the burning and the raping and the murdering and all of that didn't happen. None of that happened. Like, there's this alternate America somewhere that white folks fantasize about that is so different from the actual America that we live in. They want to create this alternate universe. The show Loki talks about variants, that people who disturb the timeline, they don't do what they're supposed to do, and so they create another branch, another reality. And that's essentially what white folks are trying to do right now. They're trying to create another variant, another timeline that didn't actually happen, but they want to pretend that it did. And the reality is, America has always had a tolerance for violence and injustice, particularly against black people, and generally against non-white folks. That's the America that we're living in. That's the current America, right? That's not the alternate universe America. That's not the America with the other Peter Parkers in it. That's this one. The one that we're living in right now. We are living in America's era of mass incarceration, where 5% of the world's population live here, but we got 25% of the world's prisoners. All right? And many more that are impacted by its crime policies. More than 2.1 million Americans are incarcerated in jails and prisons. There was less than 200,000 when I was a kid back in the 70s. You got 4.6 million more that are on probation or parole. And these aren't just faceless statistics. Black people make up, they say, 13% of the nation's population, but 30% of all arrests, 40% of the incarcerated, 42% of those on death row. Those are some astounding disparities. The reality is this: black people first, and then other non-whites, Latinos, Native Americans, and others, more likely to be arrested, jailed, await trial for a long time, sentenced to jail or prison when compared to white folks who commit crime at a higher rate than everybody else in the nation. That's real. That's real. And maybe the starkest statistic, recent data predicted 1 of every 3 black boys, 1 in every 3 will go to jail or prison within their lifetime. 1 in every 3. Means if you got 3 sons, 1 of them gonna go to jail. And in some ways, these statistics outline a contemporary problem. But the challenges they describe are really legacies of systems that are much older and deeper. The same judgments about criminality, race, and control that led one Mississippi official in 1865, when talking about emancipation, to say that emancipation will require a system of prisons, has come to fruition. They predicted it in 1865. At the time of emancipation, they predicted, if you're going to free black people, we're going to need a system of prisons. There's a reason when they did the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments. There's a reason when they did the amendments to abolish slavery that they said slavery would be abolished in all of the states and territories, with the exception of those convicted of a felony. That those who were convicted of a felony and remanded to the prison system would still be slaves. That's the reason they said, if we're going to free people, emancipation is going to require a system of prisons so we can still have our slaves. That's the reality. That's the reality. The experience of black people murdered and terrorized by mob violence for generations between emancipation and the civil rights struggle, alongside the virtual inaction of local and federal law enforcement, laid the groundwork for the inequality and the injustice that we face today. This did not happen in a vacuum. This is a continuation of what America has always been about. In order for us to understand the current system's roots in racism and dehumanization is critical for us to extract the problem and to really grow something better. And so if you deny the history, if you pretend it didn't exist, it didn't happen, then you can never understand how we got here today. And that's the strategy. That's the strategy. Deny the history that laid the groundwork for us to be where we are today. Then the only rationale to explain what's happening today is just to say that black folks are inherently criminal. They're inherently immoral. You know, they're inherently lazy. That the reason why the disparities that exist in America disproportionately affect black people is because of their own doing. And it has nothing to do with the history of systemic racism in America. So if you erase that history, then you can summarily blame black folk for everything that happens to them and ignore the reality of the history that created the current systems that we live under today. I mean, it's ingenious when you think about it, but that's what they want to do. That's what they want to do. You know, they want to ignore the fact and pretend that in the 17th and 18th centuries, 15 million African people were kidnapped. Well, they want to pretend it didn't happen. That they were kidnapped, chained, and brought to the Americas after a torturous journey across the Atlantic Ocean, what we call the Middle Passage. They want to pretend it didn't happen, that in these yet to be United States, the labor of enslaved black people fueled economic growth, while an ideology of white supremacy and racial difference was created to justify slavery as morally acceptable. They want to pretend that didn't happen. They want to act like it didn't happen, that in the 19th century, that this thriving plantation economy and forcible taking of land from indigenous people increased demand for enslaved labor, and through the domestic slave trade, the South's enslaved population rose dramatically. They want to pretend that didn't happen. They want to pretend it didn't happen, that after the South's defeat in a bloody civil war, the nation adopted the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery except as punishment for crime, so that you can create a prison system, mass incarcerate black people, and still keep them as slaves, while leaving intact a bitter resistance to racial equality. They want to pretend it didn't happen, that continued support for white supremacy and racial hierarchy meant that slavery in America really didn't end, it just evolved. Now that's deep right there, y'all. It really never ended, it just evolved. And see, the reality is, sisters and brothers, the identities of many white Americans, especially in the South, were grounded in the belief that they were inherently superior to black people. And they reacted violently to the requirement to treat their former human property as equal. They reacted violently to the notion that they actually had to pay them for their labor. And so in the years after the Civil War, thousands of black people were murdered for asserting their freedom, their basic rights. Cities like Memphis and New Orleans were sites of violent mob attacks on black communities. Between 1868 and 1871, there was a wave of terror that swept across the South that resulted in the deaths of thousands of black people. Some were killed merely for failing to obey a white person. Congressional efforts to provide federal protection and civil rights to former enslaved black people were undermined by the United States Supreme Court rulings. I mean, case after case, they legalized, they codified racism into law. That's what critical race theory really is about. Examining the codification of racism into law and how it affected public policy and the treatment of black people in America. You had cases like the slaughterhouse cases, the United States versus Reese, the United States versus Cruikshank, case after case after case. And then even the northern politicians kind of abandoned their commitment to protect black people, and Reconstruction basically collapsed. That's why Malcolm X had said, y'all stop talking about the South. Because as long as you're south of the Canadian border, you're South. That racism exists everywhere in America. This is the history. And as we leave 2021, this history is still enduring. I don't care how much, You know, they bastardized the concept of critical race theory and try to use it as a political football leading into the 2022 elections. The tolerance for violence and injustice in America still exists. And I know people say, well, you know, with the younger generation, they're not the same as their parents. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Look around you. Look at all of the racist stuff you see on social media, on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram. That's not old people. That's not people in their 50s and 60s and 70s doing that. Those are teenage kids and kids in their 20s who this racist ideology has been passed down to. That's how it continues. They pass it down from generation to generation. They are like their parents. They are. They absolutely are. There was a photo floating around on the internet of all these white kids, high school kids, wearing swastikas, having them tattooed on their bodies and stuff. This stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. This is learned behavior. Somebody is teaching them this. Let me bring anti-racism up on the Twitter space. All right, you're in the house. Good morning.
Listening. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Is that Bishop?
Yes.
Hi. Oh, it's lovely to speak to you. Thank you so much for letting me talk. Can everyone else hear me as well?
They can hear you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ella. I'm from England, UK.
From all the way from the UK.
From the UK, yes.
All right.
And I would like to wish you all a very Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
This is great. I haven't done one of these chats on Twitter before, so excuse me if I'm a little bit nervous.
That's okay.
I'm listening with interest to all the things that you're saying, and I can hear the strength of feeling in your voice. And I just want you to know that I've heard all of that you've said, and I acknowledge it. CRT, the problem with CRT in the UK that we have is that it is blind to racism towards white people. So although we've had years and years of efforts to make racism as minimal as we possibly can make it in this country, although it'll never completely disappear, we've not had any efforts to minimize anti-white racism. And so we back up.
Let me back up. So you're saying there's a problem with CRT because
it's denying that we've got race-based modern day slavery in the UK.
But you said it's about anti-white racism.
Yeah.
So let me ask a question.
Dehumanization, race-based attacks, race-based hate crimes.
So let me ask a question.
Yes.
In the UK, yes, when have black people been in power? Ever? When have they been? When have they been in power in terms of the government? In terms of wait, let me just finish. In terms of the government, in terms of controlling business and industry and education. Wait. I'm not done. Okay. Okay. You don't want to let me finish talking, so I'm going to have to remove you from the speaker because I got to ask my question first before you can answer it. You can't answer a question if you haven't heard it. We can sing together, but we can't talk at the same time. And so my question was going to be, when have black people ever been in charge in the UK to oppress white folk in the first place? When has there ever been systemic racism against white people in the UK? I'm not talking about individual acts. I'm not talking about a person who called you a bad name or something. But I'm talking about when has a system in the UK ever privileged black people and disenfranchised white people? Let me answer that question for you. Not never. Never, ever has that happened. And to say that you've worked to minimize racism against black people in the UK, are you kidding me? You can't be for real. I tell you what, give back the Benin bronzes to Africa. Give back all of the stolen artifacts to Africa that are sitting in museums, sitting on crowns for the royal family in the UK. Give all of that back. Pay reparations, okay, for the years of enslavement across Africa and the Caribbean, and even in the United States. No one has colonized black people across the world more than the UK. Nobody has done more damage to the human family globally than generations of white people in the UK. But you complaining about anti-white racism? Like black folk all of a sudden? Where's the black queen in the UK? Where's the black prime minister? Where are the black people that are controlling the political parties in the UK? That are controlling business and industry and the prisons and the police and every other system in the UK that are causing white folk to be discriminated against in a systemic manner in the UK. This is what I'm talking about. You just created an alternate timeline. You're another Peter Parker that exists from a different era. Because what you talked about don't exist. Ah, 413-337-1867. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe I misunderstood her. I don't know. But if she said what I thought she said, all right. Come on up. You're on the Twitter space. Good morning.
Unified Black Caucus, Comrade Don, New York City. How you doing?
What's going on, bro?
Hey, listen, I just tuned into this. I have the podcast, Standing for Justice. But I was just thinking this yesterday. It came across my mind as I'm grieving my father and headed to his funeral.
My condolences.
The most violent people on the planet are Caucasians. The Europeans, you are 100% correct, 1,000% correct in everything you just said. This needs to be made public not only for America, but for the whole world. Everything you just said needs to be reiterated for the entire world. You're telling the truth, and the truth is what should and must be revealed. The Great Britain is the greatest Satan that ever lived.
Ever.
It's the fount of all violence on the planet, and the most violent people on the planet are Caucasian people. Always have been. They are the first one that fired the first gunshots on American soil, the most violent in history documented, and the most of oppressive. There's no history documented by anybody on this planet that can show that black people have ever oppressed white people to the extent that white people have oppressed not only black and brown, but everybody they come in contact with, even some of their own kin. So listen, brother, I got to tune into this. I got to follow this here. It's the first time I come across it. I'm real busy at Standing for Justice podcast. We nationwide. But brother, I wish there's some way I could have recorded that. I wish you sent it to me, what you just said.
Listen, after we finish this, it'll be available on Twitter. You'll be able to go. to the Twitter space.
And I'm glad all these beautiful people on here are listening to this. Follow Standing for Justice podcast on Instagram and everywhere, Twitter and everywhere, because we reiterate and we speak on the same thing the brother is speaking about, the Black King is speaking about. All of you listeners here, you must not only listen to what he's saying, you must promote it, advertise it, and preach it and teach it, because this is gospel truth. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Great Britain and America is the greatest Satans that ever lived. And America is Great Britain, just on different soils. Best believe that.
All right. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for the opportunity, bro.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I mean, that's the fact. I got 4 minutes left. Let me, a couple more people I think are trying to get up in the Twitter space. Let me see if I can get them in before we end the program. Sonny G, you're in here. Come on, Sonny G.
Yo, Bishop Talbert, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hey, what's going on, boss? I just want to say that it's definitely a privilege and an honor to be able to hear you speak. The truth to power, man. You don't really hear that coming from the church. You know how it used to be like in the '60s, and the deacons of arms and things like that. So I just wanted to chime in and say, it's good to hear that, coming from the church. Being on code and calling out the BS, man, and not being docile and just turning a blind eye and not seeing what's going on. So I just wanted to salute you, Bishop. And, that's all pretty much I want to say.
All right. Appreciate you, man. Let me see. Let me get, I thought I had one more on here. I want to get up Al Smith. Let me get Al Smith up in here. Al, you're in the Twitter space. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
How you doing today?
I'm good. You?
I'm gonna be real quick. Tariq Nasheed just did a video saying that he saw two little kids being coaxed by their father, saying, "Who are you?" They're carrying guns, and the little kid says, "I'm Cal Rittenhouse." It was really crazy and stuff, So I'm trying to say that it's been passed down. It's really passed down from older people to younger people. It's really passed down. So, that's all I wanted to say.
All right.
It's definitely passed down.
Appreciate you. Yeah, I wish I had more time. Only got a couple minutes left in the spoken word. I'll continue on, on the, as we go into the Justice and Flow Hour on the internet. So I'll have to continue this conversation. But when we talk about the tolerance for violence and injustice, we got to talk about convict leasing. We got to talk about black codes. We got to talk about so much more to kind of lay the groundwork to understand how we got to where we are now. And a lot of times people act like where we are now just, happened in a vacuum, or you get a lot of Democrats who pretend it happened once Donald Trump got elected. But this is America, as Childish Gambino said, this is America. This is what it is. Listen, if you're looking for a place to worship, check us out at the Spring of Hope Church of God in Christ, 35 Alden Street, Springfield, Massachusetts, 11 a.m. on Sunday. This coming Friday night at 10 p.m., watch night at Deliverance Center Ministries, 336 Springfield Street, Springfield, Massachusetts. We'll be fellowshipping together for watch night, bringing in the new year together. Those of you who are on WTCC, you can switch over to social media and check out the continuation, the after show. For the rest of you, until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember, God loves you, and so do I. All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
What's happening? Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. All that good stuff.
Happy
Kwanzaa.
Happy Kwanzaa, Kuji Chakalia today. Kuji Chakalia.
Umoja yesterday. Unity.
Hey,
we always got a Greek for us.
Hope you
All
had,
right.
Hope you had a good Christmas, baby. Merry Christmas.
Oh, she had a good Christmas. She was sending pictures of the grandbaby swimming.
Good
Good morning, Mother Green.
You know.
I'm jealous.
The weather
like that in Florida.
Yeah, they were swimming. So
good morning, Tyrell.
So I wish I could have been swimming, but I couldn't swim because it's cold out here.
No.
We went when we went to MGM for the movies last night. They have a beautiful ice rink out there. So I said we need to learn how to ice skate.
Yeah, well, I used to do that when I was a kid. We all did. We used to have a little ice skating rink outside of the apartment that we stayed in, and we actually used to go out and buy ice skates, and go out and ice skate. It's been so many years since then. I probably would break my ankles on ice skates today, so I'm not going to try it. I'm not going to try to rekindle my childhood and do any of that stuff. Sometimes your mind tells you can do stuff that your body vetoes.
Mother
Green said there's an echo in my mind. I don't know if it's anything I can do on my end.
Let me see if I can fix you. Let me see if I can fix you. How's that? Is that better?
I don't know, Mother Green. Is this better for you? Audience, let us know if this is better.
A 1 2, a 1 2.
Somebody said your Twitter feed is down also, but I think that's been down for a minute, right?
No. What we did was, I'm getting ready to come back up. I had the Twitter Spaces up. The actual video, Twitter video, is still up. I'm switching the space based on this topic as opposed to the first hour, which is, what are we talking about?
You know what we talking about? We talking about what the audience want to talk about. I feel like since this is the last show of 2021, Justice and Flow, that is, and those of you who are listening to us, you more than likely was with us when we gave birth to Justice and Flow earlier in the year. It wasn't that long ago. It's just a few months ago. Um, but we do plan on. I've already got some things in the works. I think I said this the other day too on a previous show. Got some things in the works to where we're going to have some recurring um, people, come into the show throughout the year in 2022. So looking forward to producing and doing some more actual producing for this show. But today I feel like I wanted to take some calls because we never really get to that on the actual show. We never really get to take calls, and I wanted to take calls today with the last show of the year. I really wanted to hear from you all that stay with us, stay with us for Justice and Flow after Bishop ends his show on WTCC at 10 a.m. I really wanted to hear from you about your thoughts on Justice and Flow, what you would like to hear more of from Justice and Flow, what you like about Justice and Flow, what you dislike about Justice and Flow. And trust me, I'm a big girl, so I could take it. I could take some constructive criticism,
No, if I can, keep in mind.
From those of you who really want to see us, succeed. We know the difference between those and trolls. We know the difference between those and trolls.
I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my stuff. All right.
Well, I am definitely an artist, and so I want to serve the people. So I want to hear from authentic, genuine people, and I know the difference. So I'm not scared to open up the lines, to hear from the people today.
All right, the lines is open. So if you want to chime in on the telephone line, 413-337-1867. If you're in the Twitter space, shoot us a request. We are live on the Twitter space. So for those of you who said the Twitter was down, we just switched the space from the first hour's program. And during that hour, we were talking about the history of the tolerance of violence and injustice in America and this alternate reality that they're trying to create, going into the next year for the purpose of trying to manipulate an election. So we're wide open. And if you got some New Year's resolutions and things you want to see happen here and all of that, we'd love to hear about that as well. Because we know y'all are smack dab in the middle of making your resolutions. You're going to eat better. You're going to exercise more. You're going to lose weight. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. You're going to do the other. Holler at us. Let us know what's happening, for you for the new year. And then those of you who are still with us, rep your city, rep your town. Let us know where you're chiming in from. What part of the country and the world you're in from. Somebody was in here from the UK trying to tell me about anti-white racism, against white people in the UK. Oh, that was interesting. I always get some interesting folks on this platform. So we're wide open.
So I don't make resolutions per se. But I do try to make some commitments or a plan for myself, to better myself. And as you all know, I talked about this a couple of Mondays ago, that this month is reset month for me. And so from now on, every December will be reset month for me. So every day, I take on either a topic, or I take on a word, or I take on a concept, that I want to try to include in my daily living. So, I wouldn't say that, the goal is to lose weight, but I would say that the goal for me, I'll be 55 in 2022 if I make it to see it on March 19th. So definitely in the senior citizen uh, category now. We are seniors.
You're
We are definitely seniors. I think I got my AARP card when I was 49, because my husband is a little older than me.
you ain't don't need to be
He
telling
had his
everybody
AARP
your age.
card already, and so they sent it to me when I was 49. So a year prior to turning 50. So nevertheless, we're official. When you get your AARP card, you are officially a senior. And so, anyway, with that being said, it's very, very, very important for those that are in our age category to, certainly be watching out for our health, and doing what we can, to better our health or to improve our health. So, one of the things that's been helping me a great deal is to make water my drink of choice. So we go out to eat a lot, or whatever the case may be. I rarely, if at any time, drink soda anymore. I don't buy soda anymore. But I always get water. Sometimes I'm tempted, and a lot of times I am, to be quite honest. I might get a lemonade or an iced tea, which I need to be very, very careful with that. So I need to cut back on the lemonades and the iced teas, or the specialty drinks, little refresher drinks. I go to Starbucks a lot, so I need to cut back on that. But nevertheless, make water your drink of choice. That helps me a great deal with how my body feels. Because if um you drink too much drinks with sugar, you know, or whatever, I don't know if, well, you do. You get a lot of back pain, you get a lot of kidney infections, bladder infections, a whole lot of things can kind of go wrong when you drink too much sugar anyway. But if you drink a lot of drinks with sugar in it, that definitely um, does that, to your body. So drinking more water helps that. Helps with that pain, and helps with, some of that unnecessary health issues that, we can kind of put on our body in that way. So making water definitely my drink of choice. I want to increase the level of water that I drink. And I drink a lot of water as it is, but I want to drink even more water going into 2022. So that's definitely a health choice that I've made. I don't eat beef anymore. That's been a COVID thing. By the way, we're still in a pandemic, everybody. We're still losing people. We're still losing people. Um, got a news yesterday. Another young person has died. I don't want to call any names because I don't know if the name is being shared yet. But got news again yesterday. Another young person passed away from COVID. And when I say young person, I'm talking about somebody young enough to be our child, young enough to be our niece, nephew, or whatever the case may be, younger than us, younger than us. So please, 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 please do what you can to not only stay safe and live, but to keep other people around you safe as well. A friend of mine, I won't call names, or whatever, friend of mine called and let me know that she tested positive. And trust me when I say that this young lady does everything everything that she knows to do. She's fully vaccinated, boosted, the whole nine. And she does everything that she knows to do, to keep herself healthy, keep her family healthy, keep her children and grandchildren and everybody healthy. However, she tested positive on this week. And so she knows that more than likely she's going to be fine. But she also knows that she is, because she's positive, that she can transmit or give the virus to someone. So she wants to stay away from other people. She wants to stay away from the public. So she's quarantining and she's social distancing and she's keeping everybody away from her until she takes the test and she tests negative. So let's do what we can. Let's do what we can to stay safe.
Absolutely. And it's all right to get tested, even if you don't have symptoms. I recently tested um, just because I had been doing some traveling, um, more so than I had done the whole pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because I was on airplanes and in different spaces, especially down in Florida, um, you know, and potentially exposed to folks who, I didn't know anything about their status. So I got tested just to be sure, because you can you can be asymptomatic, you can be carrying and passing it to other folks without even knowing it. So
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing too. Two things you just reminded me of. Number one, there are free tests available, so you can go and pick up a test. As a matter of fact, I think they'll give a couple to you. So there are tests available to you, to pick up. That's something that the president did, but nevertheless, they are available. I believe the city still has available tests. I can't remember right off the top of my head where they are, but nevertheless, if you look it
health
up,
department, you can get it at the public health department. You can get it at the Ray Jordan Senior Center. Those are
right.
two of the locations that I know of.
And I think also, like, if we live in Indian Orchard, I think they're also available at IOCC.
Exactly.
So they're available at various places throughout the city. And for those of you who don't live in Springfield, certainly check with your city hall and find out where they're available to you as well. So here's the thing too. The young lady that I was just speaking of, she didn't have any symptoms. She went to the doctors for something else. And while she was there, she said, let me take the test, just to, make sure of my status. And so she was surprised to find out that she was positive. And so here's the thing, most of us who are vaccinated, we may not have any symptoms. So that's the other reason why you might want to take the test. So you might not have any symptoms. So you may not be aware, excuse me, you may not be aware that you're positive. And like I said, more than likely, if you're vaccinated, more than likely you're going to be okay. More than likely. However, if you're positive, just like my sister said, if you're positive, you can easily give the virus to someone else maybe more vulnerable, someone else, who was exempt from, say, being vaccinated, just whatever. And so you just don't want to be responsible for someone, receiving the virus and becoming ill or certainly passing away. So that's the other reason why you might want to take the test, just to, check your status. And, you might want to take the test periodically anyway while we're still in this pandemic.
Absolutely. There's still a lot of misinformation, and there's still a lot of crazy attitudes. I saw a dude on talking about, everybody in my family had it. It was no big deal. My son only got the sniffles. And this is all that happened to me. And they're still running around saying this is a farce, even though people have died. I mean,
well, you're first of all, you're not the only person who had a complete family who contracted the virus. I have a family in Texas. Everybody in my family contracted the virus too. Everybody lived except for my mother. So everybody survived except for my mother. Okay. Now, and then came home. I contracted the virus, and so did a whole lot of my other church members contract the virus. At the same time, we were at a funeral, and we contracted the virus at a funeral. I was off my feet for at least 6 weeks. And we lost a person who was one of our church mothers at the church, during that time as well. It was touch and go for a lot of people during that time. So that might be your story, that might be your testimony, and praise God, you and your family survived the virus. But everybody don't have that testimony. Some of us have lost people, and some of us have lost people, and if they had lived long enough, I know if my mother had lived long enough to get vaccinated, she most likely would still be here with us. She most likely would still be here with us. So anyway, I don't tolerate that nonsense. I don't tolerate that conversation. This, that, and the other. At the end of the day, it is your choice whether or not you decide to get vaccinated. But you keep that nonsense to yourself, as far as it's no big deal, and it's nobody's dying from it. My son only had the sniffles. First of all, your son may have only had the sniffles now, but you don't know what long-term effects your son is going to have. None of us do. I'm still suffering. I still suffer from insomnia. I still suffer from sudden fatigue syndrome. I still every once in a while start to breathe funny. It comes out of nowhere. I can't control it. Listen, my taste goes in and out. My senses are completely off. I'm not the same that I was before COVID. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that I survived, or whatever. I'm angry that my mother didn't, but I don't want to hear, it's no big deal. I don't want to hear that mess. You keep that to yourself. And I don't want to hear nobody saying that in my presence, because it might just pop off. It just might pop off. But like I said, it's your choice if you don't want to get vaccinated. But if you don't want to get vaccinated, please don't come to my house, and please don't come around me if you don't want to get vaccinated. If you don't want to, wear your mask. If you don't want to, practice all safety, that you can, safety protocols that you can, or whatever the case may be. Just don't come around me and mine. Stay away from us. Stay away from the public. Stay away from other people. And I was saying to my husband the other day, I don't know where he went, but I was saying to him the other day, I don't understand why these businesses and restaurants, and I hope they hear me talking, I don't understand why they're not mandating that their employees wear masks. Everybody needs to be wearing a mask. It's just that simple. Everybody needs to be wearing a mask. I'm not going into another restaurant and my waitress don't have a mask on. I'm not doing that. I'm not sitting through that. That is nerve-wracking. That is nerve-wracking. I done lost too many people. I done been to too many funerals in the last years. That's nerve-wracking. People need to stop that. Every employee, if you working with the public, wear a mask. It's just that simple. Wear a mask.
In the words of Andrew Caldwell, wear your mask.
Right. Wear a mask. If you took that mask, stay away from me. Are you talking about the vaccine? If you took the vaccine, stay away from you. Because you need to be staying away from people.
Well, wait, who said that?
I think somebody, I don't know who this is. I think that's what they mean. If you took that mess, stay away from me. That's what they said. So
they said if you took the vaccine, stay away from them.
I'm assuming that's what they mean. I'm not sure. But if they did, if that's what they mean, no, you need to stay away from people if you did not get vaccinated. If you did not get vaccinated, you need to stay away from people. Trust me, ain't nobody trying to come around you if we know you not vaccinated. Ain't nobody trying to come around you. I'm not. I'm definitely not.
Oh, that's Cheryl. Okay, I see.
We just came back from a funeral. Beautiful young lady. Unvaccinated. I'm so angry. So trust me, ain't nobody trying to come around you unvaccinated. Baby, you don't want to get vaccinated. Just let the public know that you're unvaccinated so we can stay away from you. Ain't nobody trying to come around you.
Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Bishop. Good morning, lady.
Good morning.
Speaking the truth. This virus is a killer. It'll kill 800-something people in America. And you know what? I'm a believer. I'm a Christian, too. I hear a lot of Christian brothers and sisters saying, well, I got faith in God. God is going to protect me. I got faith, too. But at the same time, you know what? I know there's a virus out here. And you know what? I'm going to use my common sense and go get my vaccination and booster and everything. Because you know what? A whole lot of them that's sick, they got faith. A whole lot of them, they done died. Mm-hmm. So you know, I can say this. I'll say this. When they talk about God speaking, sometimes you better hear what God's speaking, because God is speaking through the doctors and the sciences and the president. So you better take heed. I tell you, this ain't no joke. This is a killer virus. It will kill you. Thank you, and God bless.
God bless you. I'm glad that he brought that up, because that is well, Bishop, you know, we've heard a lot of that, and we're people of faith, and so I'm like, so God can't be in the scientist that developed the vaccine like he was before. I mean, actually, the way that this vaccine was developed is nothing new. It's not a new science. You know, it's not a new science. You know, like Bishop stated before, 100 years ago, we had the flu vaccine, you know, developed, or whatever the case may be, 100 years ago. So it seems like I honestly thought 100 years later that our technology and our understanding of the science, in which I believe that God was in that. I believe that God was in that. You know, as a woman of faith, I believe that God is in all things. You know, I believe that God is in, in all good things. Just like, you know, just like He's in our knowledge and improving our health, and you know, and this, that, and the other. I believe that, you know, God will bless doctors and surgeons and scientists, and you know, that they too are anointed. It's not just preachers that are anointed. It's not just musicians that are anointed. It's not just singers that are anointed, but we have, thank God we do. We have some anointed doctors. We have some anointed scientists. We have some anointed nurses. We have some anointed. Listen here. In every area, in every profession, we have some anointed folk. We have people of faith. Don't be ignorant. Don't, try to put God in a box and, and act like only God would only perform in this way or God would only do it in this way. There's a story that's told about, a man that, was in a flood and he was in his home and the water was raising. And so he was a man of faith. And so he asked God to deliver him. And the water was raising and the water was coming and the water was raising. And God sent the man in a little boat, or whatever. And he told the man, oh, that's okay. God gonna save me. The water kept on raising. The water kept on raising. And God, to the second floor, whatever. And God sent somebody else, to come and help him. And he said, that's okay. God gonna save me. Then he made it to the roof. The water kept on coming. And, or whatever the case may be, he's on the roof. And God sent another boat, another big boat. And he said, no, God gonna save me. And then the man drowned. And while he was in heaven, he said to God, why didn't you save me? He said, I tried to 3 times. I sent the boat 3 times. I sent somebody to save you 3 times, or whatever the case may be. So he was the reason for his own demise. The fact that he was looking for God to save him in one particular way that his mind could conjure up, but God had sent 3 different ways, or whatever for him to be saved and for him to be delivered. And he denied it. He rejected it. And so he created and he caused his own demise.
All right. English Springer, you're in the Twitter space. Good morning. All right, going once. All right, continue, babe. They must be having trouble figuring it out. Oh, wait a minute. I think I barely hear somebody. Are you there? All right, continue. I thought we had them, but we don't.
Okay. No, I was just trying to, make the point, and at least this is my thinking. That's my thinking. It's like, so God couldn't have sent the vaccination. God could not have, given the scientists, the biologists, the chemists, all of the knowledge and whatever that they needed to create this vaccine to help us. The fact of the matter is, you got to look at the numbers. You can't deny the numbers. You can't deny the fact that the people that are dying today, 99.9%, I think it's even might be closer to that, but 99.9% of them are unvaccinated people that are dying from COVID today. That's a fact. If somebody can show me different, show me different. Show me different. That is a fact. We've been to the funerals. We've been to the funerals.
What I don't understand is really, and I've been consistent with this the whole time. Is your body, your decision. Your body, your decision. And here's my thing. If you choose not to, that's on you. If you choose to have the vaccine, then you've made a choice that you feel is in your best interest. What I don't get is the folks who choose not to, the condemnation on the folks who choose to do it. as and this falls into the whole politicizing of a deadly virus. This is not about politics. It ain't about all of the divisive political landscaping that you all are making it about, and this notion that you can literally sit here and pretend that it's not real. It's like the man is making y'all think this is real. No, we have people who have died, loved ones who are no longer here. 800,000 people in this nation alone, over 2 million around the globe, are dead. They have died. That's how real this is. So if you choose not to have the vaccine, that's your choice. But don't tell us it ain't real when people die. I the funerals. Okay? We've seen the people suffer. I've visited the people on deathbeds. Okay? So don't tell me it's not real. Make up your mind about whether or not you want to have the vaccine. That's on you as a grown person. That's on you. But don't tell me it ain't real.
Not only that, babe, but it's so many different things going on here. So you got these people discouraging folks to get vaccinated that are vaccinated themselves. So you got that element of people. And then you have people that are in our position, in our role as leaders, as spiritual leaders, as I don't like the word religion, but I'm gonna say godly leaders, men and women of God. And and I'm gonna put myself out here. You don't have to. You're a bishop. I understand there's a different standard for you. Well, it's not necessarily one for me. But I'm telling you right now, I am not tolerating any foolishness, any ignorance from people of God, so-called people of God, people that wear a collar, people that are pastors, people that are bishops, people that are first ladies. If you have any kind of influence and you get up and you use your platform to tell people or to discourage people from getting vaccinated, I have absolutely no tolerance for that anymore. We have lost too many people, and some of them have died. Some of them have died also. And so they say God said this. God ain't said nothing to you about no vaccination. He might have said it to you as a person, but he ain't said it for you to say to the public. This is an individual decision. Just like your relationship with God is individual, like you can't go to heaven, right? Or you can't even experience heaven here on earth off the coattail of anybody else, off the coattail of your grandmama, I don't care how much they pray for you. You're right. You can't have no relationship with God with anybody else but for yourself. And with this kind of stuff, you have to make the decision for yourself. You have to make the decision for yourself. This is not something that your pastor or anybody else need to be telling you to do. You need to take care of your health. You need to be responsible and mature enough to take care of your health, and to do whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. You say a lot of times, and I've heard you say it many a times over the years, and it's been a blessing to me to hear you say, God has already equipped us with the knowledge that we need, right, to take care of ourselves. So then we reject that information. We reject that information and we go out here and we eat whatever we want to eat. And we live the kind of lifestyle that is contrary to, better health or good health. And then when we get to a point to where we're hurting or we're in pain or we're, on the precipice of, a very unhealthy sickness or illness or whatever the case may be, then we want to come to the altar. And we want to get prayer. We want somebody to lay hands on us And if, we had just took our health into our own hands, because God always provides the information, always provides everything that we need, to do for ourselves. Today is Kuji Chocolate. And with that being said, we speak for ourselves, we define ourselves, we take care of ourselves, and all of that. So, and nobody can do that for us, but we have to do it. And so that's what I'm trying to say today. You make that decision. You don't go to your pastor and ask your pastor, what should I do? You got to make that decision. It's your relationship with God. You need to know God's voice.
Yeah, some things are individual. And I did a program early on in the pandemic, and I entitled that show. I think it might be available on podcast. Called "The Thin Line Between Faith and Fanaticism." The thin line between faith and fanaticism, and you can see it from a historical perspective. You have Christian Scientists and others who refuse medical procedures, simple medical procedures like blood transfusions and things that could easily save people's lives, and people will literally die instead of simple medical procedures that can save their lives because of their faith, which I say is more fanaticism than it is faith. And we get that same thing during this season, where people are, God told me not to do this. And that's fine. If that's what you feel God told you, but he told you.
Yourself. Yeah.
You. He didn't tell you so that you can tell everybody else that that's what thus saith the Lord, right, as it's for everybody. If that's your conviction, then go ahead with your conviction. Mm-hmm. With your conviction, and whatever the consequences may be, then you're the only one who suffers those consequences. But when you're a person of influence and you say God said, or you spread a certain word, and people who depend on you and believe in you follow your advice, you could potentially be putting other people's lives at risk. If a doctor says to get surgery and you say, well, God told me you shouldn't get surgery, you're not a medical professional, and you potentially put that person's life at risk because of the advice that you get. I'll give you a real life example. This is real. This happened in our denomination, in the Church of God in Christ. There was a bishop who was telling his members that if you wear a mask, then it's a lack of faith. Mm-hmm. It's a lack of faith. Mm-hmm. And his head deacons was wearing a mask, and he told him, publicly rebuked him in a service.
Embarrassed him.
And told him that you can't be a deacon counting money in my church wearing a mask, which means you don't have faith. And the deacon apologized, took off his mask, stopped wearing his mask, and 3 weeks later, he was dead of COVID. Mm-hmm. 3 weeks later, he was dead of COVID, and his family is suing the church because they're saying that he contracted COVID when he stopped wearing his mask because his bishop said it was a lack of faith. Mm-hmm. That was completely irresponsible. Mm-hmm. Completely. That's the line between faith and fanaticism. Mm-hmm. I can believe God with my mask on. Mm-hmm. Okay? It doesn't mean I don't have faith because I wear my mask. It doesn't mean I don't have faith because I take my blood pressure medication.
I got common sense. That's what that means.
High blood pressure runs in my family. My father has hypertension. My mother has hypertension. My sister has hypertension. I have hypertension. I take my blood pressure medication every day. Does that mean I have a lack of faith? No, that means I don't want to die of the silent killer. I don't want it to damage my liver or my kidneys or my heart or anything like that. So this whole notion that you don't have faith if you subscribe to medical. Listen, Jesus called Luke as one of his disciples, and Luke was a physician. He was a doctor. Jesus respected the practice of medicine. Okay? The Bible respects the practice of medicine. Is there no balm in Gilead? Is there no physician there? It references physicians and balms and healing medications all throughout scriptures. What the hell are y'all talking about? Who run around acting like if you listen to doctors that you don't have faith? That's fanaticism.
And
that's ridiculous.
This translates into every area of life. And it's cultic behavior as well. It's cultic behavior as well for to have a cultural system to where you only do and behave like your pastor or your leader says to. And it's also a problem if the leader thinks that he is supposed to control a person or a congregation in that manner. Case in point, we've heard, or we're talking about today. We're talking about COVID-19 specifically. We're talking about this pandemic specifically. We're talking about physical illness. And we're talking about doctors and nurses, but this also translates into your mental health. This also translates into your financial health. Pastors are not knowledgeable in all things. They're supposed to be knowledgeable in spiritual things. They're supposed to be knowledgeable of the Bible. They're supposed to be knowledgeable of that does not make them an expert in all things. Again, that does not make them someone that you can go to get or to learn more about your physical health. They're not medical doctors. Your mental health, they're not therapists and psychologists. Your financial health, they don't have a accounting degree or a financial degree. They don't have their MBAs, or whatever the case may be. I don't know why people think. And then listen. Like I said, in every area. I'm talking about marriage. I'm talking about with your children. I'm talking about we have a lot of people that got their MDivs, or whatever the case may be, or got their ordination papers that may be pastors and whatnot. But they've been married 5 times. So they can't talk to you, about a healthy marriage. They can't talk to you about raising your children when they got 30 children by 29 mamas, or whatever the case may be, and they haven't been responsible, with their seed and so on and so forth, and with their seeds, or whatever case. Listen, we just got to be honest. We got to be honest. Use a pastor for a pastor, but he is not God, or she is not God. She is not God. He is not God, or whatever. Put God in his place and let God be God. But God, I believe that I see God in this way. God has given us what we need because he's a provider. He's Jehovah Jireh. We always got what we need. We don't always use what we need, though. But when we've come to the end of that, I believe that we make room for God to step in and perform a miracle in some cases. Yes. But if you need deliverance and God sent the boat, get on the boat. Don't wait for God to, you know, swoop down with his hand, you know, and pick you up and then, you know, put you in a safe place. If the boat came by, God sent the boat. That's what I believe. If the boat came by, you drowning, and the boat came by, God sent the boat. Don't send the boat on its way. Get on the boat, you know, to get delivered.
Listen to this public service announcement. Wear your mask.
Please wear your mask. Wear your mask. It is very important for you to put on that mask. This is not no joke, and this is not no rundown. Wear your mask. If you vaccinated or not, throw on that mask and stop lying, telling people you vaccinated and you know dang on well you ain't vaccinated. You up here trying to get people sick.
So All About You said that doctors are not knowledgeable in all things either. I never said they were. I said that doctors are knowledgeable in medicine. They're supposed to be. Okay? They're supposed to be. And I also said that pastors and whatnot, clergy people, are supposed to be knowledgeable of spiritual things, of godly things. They're supposed to be knowledgeable of the Bible, per se.
Here's the thing.
I don't know what that was supposed to be, but yeah.
We can do multiple things at the same time. And yes, we can build our immune systems. I believe we ought to do that. I mean, you know, if you want to take elderberry and zinc and omegas and all of those things that build your immune system, yes, and we ought to be doing that without a pandemic.
Absolutely.
We ought to be taking care of our health without a pandemic being here. And you know, it's a shame that it took the pandemic for people to start becoming more health conscious, but whatever it takes, I guess. So this is not about one or the other. This is about both and. Wear your mask and build your immune system and be careful and wash your hands and do everything that you can do to stop the spread of the virus, but also to take care of yourself even beyond the pandemic. Listen, if COVID disappeared tomorrow, here's the thing. If COVID disappeared tomorrow, black people would still be number one in heart disease, in hypertension, in diabetes, in every type of cancer, in premature deaths. We still would be at the top of the list in most negative health status indicators. So this ain't just about COVID. The reason we've been dying at a higher clip than everybody else is because of all of the comorbidities that we have to go along with it. Because your grandma and them and auntie and them got COVID, but they also had diabetes and hypertension and this and that and the other, which were exacerbated by the COVID, which caused them not to be able to fight it all. So if COVID disappeared tomorrow, we should still be taking care of ourselves. Period.
So Pastor Sadler, I think I said it right. Pastor Johnny Sadler said, I'm a 32-year RN and pastor and preacher. I totally support your messaging today. So thank you, Pastor, for stopping and saying that to us today. It's crazy to me that we have to have this conversation, especially with people of faith. Because let me tell you something. I agree with what you're saying today, Bishop. You know that there's this line that's been drawn between faith and fanaticism. You know, and so I believe that this fanaticism though is religious. It's religiously constructed, and it's based on religion. And that's the reason why I don't like using the term, you know, because I don't even like saying Christmas. I say Christmas. I I'm hard pressed to say Christian or to even identify as a Christian because of all of the things that are associated with those terms and religiosity. And so fanaticism in my thinking comes from being religious about organizations or about concepts. And especially here in America, that's extremely dangerous. That's extremely dangerous. And so it's all about my mind being transformed by God, saying that it's about a relationship with me. It's not about clockwork, being at church at this time on Sunday, doing this and Bible study, it's about relationship with me. And so if you got relationship with me, you will go to church, you will, study your Bible, you will, or whatever the case may be. It's not about performing for the world. It's not about performing for people. It's about pleasing a God that I believe in. So, again, that's about relationship. When you think about your intimate relationship, for instance, with your spouse, it's not enough to just, I don't know, wash the dishes, cook dinner, wash the clothes, keep a clean house, and this, that, and the other. That person needs to hear, I love you. That person, needs to see evidence, needs to hear from you in other ways. You need to write letters, get cards, send flowers, whisper in their ear, touch them, make them feel good, lift them up, and all of that kind of stuff. When you think about relationship, you think about all of those things, that create a loving atmosphere, that create a loving environment that's reciprocal. And so that's where I am. That's faith building. That's building my faith. The more closer I get to him in my relationship with him, the more my faith is increased. And that's how I know that he's in all good things. That he's in all good things.
Yes. All good things come from him, and we're blessed to be on this side of the year and the pandemic. And as I stated, going into the third year, there is a new normal. That normal that happened in 2019, what was normal to you pre 2020 is gone. There's a new normal that is now in existence, and we are the recipients, the inheritors of it, and how we handle it is what's important at this particular time as we enter into the new year. I hope and pray that all of your dreams come true this coming year, that you accomplish what you set out to accomplish, that you're able to dust off some of those dreams and aspirations that you had given up on, literally, dust them off and move into a new venue. I preached yesterday a message, launch out into the deep. That is my prayer and my hope for you as well, that you will take the risk to launch out to accomplish that thing that you had given up on. Because if there's one thing that this pandemic has taught us, is that life is short and it's uncertain. There's that old gospel song, time is filled with swift transitions. And that's, that's true. I mean, that's what life is. I mean, it can turn just like that. Just when they say here today, gone tomorrow. It's really here today, gone today. It can shift just like that, and because of that, we ought to be trying to live life to the fullest, and stop procrastinating. Dust those things off. As the hillbilly say, get her done. Um, Make it happen, so that when you come to the close of your time here, it's not filled with regrets about what I didn't do, that I should have did, risks I thought to take, but I didn't take, things I should have said that I didn't say. So God blessed us to be here on the precipice of 2022. Let's take advantage of it and live life to the fullest. Happy New Year, because we won't see y'all until 2022.
Happy New Year to you too, Mother Green. Listen, I just want to piggyback off what Bishop's final words were for today's show and say this. You don't have to wait for anybody to join you in your vision either. As long as, God has provided the vision for you, you just launch out and you do it. God will provide you with everything and everybody that you need, to accomplish the mission, or certainly, continue to develop the vision. So just know that you don't have to wait for people. You don't have to wait for resources. If God has given you the mission and the vision, just get to it. Just get to it. That's what launch out means. Launching out means you go out and see what you got. See what you got and get to work. See what you have and get to work. I believe that 2022 is destined to be a challenging year, but a better year. I believe that it's destined to be a challenging year, but a better year. And you'll be able to look back and say, oh, wow, yeah, okay, all right. So it took a year to get here. It took a year to get here. So do it. Pursue. The year of pursue. I like that, Mother Green. Yes, kingdom blessings, the year to pursue. I like that. 2022, the year to pursue. I like that. So pursue.
All right, family, we love you. Happy New Year. Until the next time we talk to you, you talk to us. Always remember, God loves you, and so do we.
Love y'all.
Hey, Kyle. Hey, baby girl. I see you.
Yes, I like that. Understanding the assignment. Yes. Love you too, baby.
Love you, baby girl. Deuces. See y'all next year.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right, y'all, we out. Peace.
Year to pursue.